All right, sounds good.
There you go. So Chris, where are you? Talk to us. Where are you working from right now?
Yeah, sure. Let me close out of these other windows that I've got open. All right. So right now, I'm working at my parents' house just outside Philadelphia. But normally I live full time in Philadelphia. The team that I work for Amazon is based out of the New York City office. But I've only been to the Amazon offices 2 times in the last year and a half. So I'm basically fully remote at the time being. But yeah, working from just outside Philadelphia right now.
Can you show us your workstation setup? Or are you prepared to?
Yeah, I can. I got 2 big, like 35-inch monitors. I got my fancy happy hacking keyboard and my trusty Apple mouse. That's about it. And I got these fancy headphones. So you don't need much else. You just need some internet and then you're basically good to go. The screens are just a luxury.
So are we on your phone right now? Is that where we are?
No, you're on my work laptop.
Oh, okay.
I can't show you the laptop, but I've got one of the nice new
okay.
M1 Max.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we also have an M1 Max. That's what I'm on as well, actually.
Oh, nice.
So
nice.
yeah,
The latest and greatest.
Yep, it is. And pretty much so do my students as well. It's a pretty sweet deal here for the high school students. So
really, we had to fight with one another tooth and nail to they're like rolling them out slowly. So I was one of the lucky ones that got the upgrade.
Nice. I'm bear with me for a second. Right now, the audio is coming out of my screen of my computer. I'll see if I can get it going up there as well. Because I've got you're on the big screen there.
Oh, okay, great.
All right. So just keep talking. Just give us a test 1, 2.
Okay. Test 1, 2. How about now?
Keep going.
I thought this was supposed to be a computer science class.
I know. Well, it is, and so that means that we've got to have
the audio figured out.
Audio issues. See, I'm looking. You guys are looking at what I'm looking. You guys see anything else? It says, right. So we are broadcasting through the Apple TV, my projector, and whatever. Can you guys hear? Okay.
Yeah.
We're just gonna roll with it, Chris. So optimistic.
Looks like you just froze up on me.
How about now?
That's too bad.
Okay. All right. Are you good?
Yeah, you're back.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm good to go.
All right. So, Chris, just as far as what we talk about is totally up to you. Maybe towards the end here, we'll open up for some questions or whatever. I don't know. What do you do? What are you when you're not talking with us?
Yeah, sure. So I like the questions you laid out. So I'm just trying to kind of walk through there because that'll give me structure, or else I'll tend to ramble.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm a software development engineer at Amazon, and I'm within the personalization organization. So Amazon at the very tippy top is divided into CDO and AWS. AWS being the big backend cloud compute software that we offer, and then CDO being the Amazon that you all kind of know and love and hopefully interact with on a regular basis. So personalization is my vertical within CDO. And what we deal with is trying to make the shopping experience for anybody on Amazon as personalized as possible. So if you imagine, your typical brick and mortar retail store, when, an 8-year-old walks in or an 80-year-old walks into that store, it looks the same. But on Amazon, because, obviously everything is digital, we've got the ability to customize the store for everybody that visits. So we want the store to look personalized and new and different for everybody that's visiting Amazon in order to make the shopping experience the best that it can be. So my team within personalization specifically focuses on identifying customer intent and utilizing that to tailor the shopping experience towards that. So when I say intent, what that means is if you're browsing on Amazon, you might simultaneously be kind of on different missions or have different intents. So, you might be simultaneously like looking around and shopping for a pair of pants, like a camping tent, a water bottle, shoes, what have you. And what our team does is it takes all those views and those searches and those purchases and clicks and aggregates them into individual intents so that we can better tailor our recommendations to you, for your mission to buy a set of running shoes, your mission to buy a water bottle, and just make that as specific as we can. And then we'll also utilize kind of like what we know about you in the long term. So, let's say, for example, you're always buying Nike or you're always buying Under Armour, or you just are like exhibiting some sort of brand preference. We're going to make sure that we're tailoring all of your new related intents to those preferences that we've identified in order to ensure that we're showing you products that we know that you're going to like. So the team I'm on now is called Customer Intent. I joined this team in September. Prior to this, I was working on a team called Zeitgeist, which was in Seattle. Also personalization, but my prior team dealt with bestsellers. So if you've ever been on Amazon and you've seen like a bestseller badge or a #1 new release or most gifted or most wished for, my prior team worked on basically computing and ranking product popularity across all of Amazon. So across all 19 different marketplaces and across like the tens of billions of products that we have in order to show customers the best in, say running shoes or whatever.
So all right, I got 1 or 2 technical questions then for you. So like when you're, so your team, like some part of the job is then to tailor like the user's session suggestions, right? Where, I mean, like, all those suggestions, every time the page reloads over there in the sidebar, it's based on what's going on in the last 30 seconds of their Amazon experience.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're simultaneously including your current session as well as every other session that you've ever had to try and make that experience the best that we can. And when you're logged in, like you've got a unique customer ID, so it's much easier for us to like aggregate that information about you. But when you're not logged in, it becomes a little bit trickier. So we're less personalized if you are, you say like an unrecognized customer browsing from a new device on Amazon for the first time.
Now, does your team just specialize on like, I don't know if this is the right terminology, but like the back end logic behind that, and somebody else worries about how it displays? Or do you guys care about how it displays as well?
Yeah, that's a great question. So basically, every team at Amazon within personalization or anybody that's working in kind of like the retail sector, your team's expected to own your systems from end to end. So we need to have people that can like do the back end computations. And then we also need people on our team that are able to do like the necessary front end work. Now, granted, there are like universal packages that we can share within our organization. Like we partner with like maybe 20 or 50 other teams, and we'll all basically use like some of the same front end assets, but we actually own the implementation of like how our recommendations to you are rendered. So we own everything from basically back to front. And the expectation is that an engineer, at least within our organization, has the expertise, or rather like the ability to pick up the necessary back-end technologies and front-end technologies.
So does that mean like, so I'm just like, I'll go off my experience. When we did something kind of similar, we would roll out, when I worked at Walmart, a lot of the stuff, the product, like if there are any like digital forms or anything like that, it was all done, via web HTML, just with like a local network. And so we had to deal with the fact that there were a lot of different computers at all the different Walmart stores, different operating systems and stuff like that. And we even had a room where we would have to go to when we're like, okay, we're going to deploy this, try it out on the Windows 95 machine, try it out on the Windows XP machine, try it out on, the Commodore 64 or whatever.
Yeah.
So does your team also have to do like testing for mobile, for Android, for iPhone, for tablet experience and all that stuff like that? How does that work?
Yeah, that's a good question. So something that surprised me when I joined here is when I think of Amazon, I think like people visit on their computers and that's where they do their shopping. But in the last like 3 to 5 years, that the paradigm's totally flipped. So something like 70% of the purchases on Amazon that are made are done by mobile customers. So mobile's becoming increasingly important relative to like the kind of classic desktop experience that Amazon offered. So our team has, this is actually something we struggle with because like we want to write once, run everywhere. So what that means is like when we write some front end, able to show up on your Android device, there's thousands of different Androids. And we also want it to render pretty seamlessly on your tablet and also on iOS. And then we'll typically like divide what we've got between mobile and desktop. So, I mean, if every time we wanted to roll out a change, we wanted to test on every single Android and iOS device, like that would obviously be a nightmare. There's 12 engineers on my team, and there's just like no way that we've got the capacity to do that. So before any deployments made, we actually try and like automate what we call them just like sanity checks. So we'll basically have like a gamma environment or a beta environment, if you guys are familiar with that term. So it's not quite a production environment that the customer's seeing, but it's about as closely replicated that it can be to what the customer will actually see. So we'll like roll our changes out to gamma, and then we'll have basically all these little robots crawl around on the page and make sure that everything that we want to be accessible is accessible. So, they'll try a bunch of different browsers, right? Because just on desktop alone, there's like, Edge, Chrome, Firefox, Safari, etc. And then you can imagine it's the same thing for all the different versions of iPhones and Androids. So we try to actually automate those tests as best we can. And we have, we call them T3, is like our internal quality assurance team. So they'll actually help us write like these automated checks that go through and make sure that everything's accessible that we want, so that our team doesn't have to spend like all of our time doing quality assurance. But as Amazon is migrating from kind of where we are now, where if you see a recommendation on your phone right now, whether you're on Android or iOS, you're going to be seeing underlying HTML. Like there's actually no difference between the assets that we deploy for Android versus iOS, but we're like really trying to make this move towards like strictly native development, because we think that native code on iOS, meaning that we're using like Apple's like front end code to basically integrate Amazon with, as opposed to doing it via like a browser. So it's like the distinction is whether we use Apple technology to show our front end or whether we use like Google's front end. So that's something that with like really heavily right now is like, how do we test all this native code that we're like in the process of writing and deploying, because like our testing systems haven't caught up to us just yet. But in general, I'd say we try to automate all those tests that we have to do, so we don't have to do what you did and walk down the hallway and like make sure it looks how we want it to look.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Yeah, I'm gonna. If we're not careful, I'll get us off topic, and we'll just kind of go get in the weeds here. What is your title? I guess you said you're a.
Yeah. So the structure for engineers at Amazon is there's basically 4 levels of engineer. So when you come out of college, you're an SDE 1. So I'm a software development engineer 1. And SDE 1s aren't required to have any experience. Like I didn't have any experience like working in a software engineering environment when I joined Amazon. But the expectation, pretty solid understanding of data structures and algorithms. And then you'll just be like placed on a team anywhere within Amazon. So I didn't know that I was going to be working on the team that I worked on when I joined out of college until like a month before. I just knew I was going to be an SDE 1, software development engineer 1 at Amazon somewhere, no idea where. And then after like typically 2 to 4 years, you'll move up to SDE 2, software development engineer 2. And then after that, depending on like the level of impact that you work at, you'll move up to SDE 3. I hope you're noticing a pattern: SDE 1, SDE 2, SDE 3. And then above that, you've got, yeah, you see where it's going? And then above SDE 3s are actually principal engineers. So within my organization, I think there's like 400 or 500 people. And we've got like 6 principal engineers. So these are people that have, like with the technology that they've written, like driven like tremendous business impact. Like they've impacted either like hundreds of millions of customers throughout the work that they've done, or have like drastically transformed the way that Amazon internally is developing and deploying software. So the typical, you know, I guess career path here is you come as an SD1 like out of college or with like just a few years of experience. And then hopefully after 2 to 4 years, you get up to SD2. And then after that, it becomes like a little bit kind of more arbitrary where you go. But principal is at the top and I'm at the bottom.
Okay. So when they hired you, it wasn't like they said, we have an opening in this particular team, this particular department that is going to work on this. Okay, that's not unusual from what I understand for larger companies. And then like it was also kind of my experience and what I've heard from other people where it's like you walk in day one and they start talking to you about all of this stuff and you have no idea the technical details. And you're like, why did they teach me this in school? But the point is that school doesn't have that, but some of the things that they do teach you at school transfer over. And is that kind of your experience?
Yeah,
Like
exactly. So I guess first,
go ahead. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. So I guess first, like the when I applied, there was no like you're going to be joining some specific job or team or role somewhere. And part is because like business need is constantly changing, so like they don't know where they're going to stick you. But that also kind of ensures that there's like this baseline level across all the engineers that Amazon hires, because they're not, you know, like if you join AWS, you're not getting some different treatment as opposed to like what I do. So by doing that, Amazon is able to one, address a business need, which is like we never know where we need people 6 months from now, but also it ensures like a standard level of competence throughout the organizations. And then like going on to what you said next, which is like you join and you're just like drowning in all this technical information. So I guess a funny story is like when I joined my first team, I had an excellent manager. And kind of like what you said, I was like, you know, people are having conversations, they're like trying to teach you stuff, and you're like, you can't get past the first sentence of what they're talking about. Like it all just goes over your head. Like you're seriously drinking from a fire hose. But the reality is that like everybody faces that. Like nobody who joins Amazon or like really any one of the big tech companies, like out of college, kind of like knows what they're getting into, because there's really like no equivalent to like school. So my manager, pretty frankly, was like, you're going to be like drinking from a fire hose, is what he always said. Like, there's going to be a lot, just like try and absorb what you can. And then, you know, I remember it was like maybe my third or fourth week and I hadn't really done anything. Like I was really just like learning and like reading documents and like trying to learn about developing code at Amazon. And I was like, when do you expect me to become like a regular contributor to the team? Like meaning like, when am I going to be at the level where, you know, like I can push code out, you know, get it reviewed and get it deployed to production, like pretty seamlessly? And he just like laughed. He was like, I don't know, 6 months, a year, like there's a lot to learn. So like people are very understanding about like just how technically complex like a lot of the stuff we work on is. But yeah, I don't think school gives you like an excellent background and like teaches you fundamentals for like data structures and algorithms, which is like stuff that I use every day. But school for me, I think really taught me like how to learn more so than it taught me like how to do this job, because like I'm constantly having to learn new technologies and new languages, like what have you, or new processes or whatever. And I think that school, like especially like a computer science education in college, where you're kind of learning like a bit of all these different things, it teaches you how to learn as opposed to like how to actually do the job that I do every day, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. No, yeah. I mean, that's kind of the difference between like a bachelor's degree and like a maybe, you know, like a 2-year associate's degree or something where that teaches you just one skill, that's it. But you're more versatile. So yeah, lots of things I want to hit on, but now your undergrad degree wasn't computer science. Is that right?
So my undergrad was a little odd. I went to Lehigh University, which is north of Philadelphia. It's in like northeastern Pennsylvania. I joined Lehigh and I just thought like I want to do business because like that's what all my friends were doing, and that seemed like I could get a good job and that would be cool. So I was an accounting major for my first 2.5 years of school, and then picked up like a minor in computer science, and then did a couple internships like doing the accounting finance role, and was like, I can't do this. Like, this is so mind-numbingly dull. But at those internships, like, I got the chance to actually like write a little bit of code, which is like in my classes at school, like I didn't think I was that good at coding, and like I never kind of imagined like becoming a software engineer. But then like I got a taste of it at an internship, and then just like decided that's what I wanted to do. So I ended up like dropping kind of like all the business stuff that I'd learned, and ended up graduating with a Bachelor of Arts in computer science. So I was like a late joiner to the computer science game.
Okay. So it sounds like those internships were really formative in kind of helping you come to a clarity on your career and stuff like that. Where'd you get those internships, and how did you secure those?
So when you're like an accounting major, there's like a few very big accounting firms, and that's kind of like where everybody tries to go. So I interned at Ernst & Young in New York City, and I was working basically doing like technology or like tax consulting. And I secured that internship because Ernst just had like a big alumni presence at Lehigh, and they would come and do on-campus interviews. And every year you knew that they were going to take like 10 interns from Lehigh. The following summer, I interned at Goldman Sachs, and I was working in like a more technical finance role. And securing that internship was a lot more work. I had to like, because they don't really recruit actively at Lehigh, I had to reach out to much older alumni who'd gone to Lehigh, and had kind of like wound up at Goldman through, just different career turns. So I got my foot in the door by just reaching out to people, like cold emailing them on LinkedIn. Was fortunate enough to have like this really friendly guy like give me a call like 20 minutes after I sent him a message on LinkedIn, and he talked to me about his job. And I was like, at that time I was like, that sounds like pretty neat. So he kind of like held my hand through the interview process, if you will. Like, I remember the woman that sat next to him is the one that interviewed me. So like he definitely kind of got my foot in the door. But I wound up really getting that job just because of like the kindness of an alumni that I'd never met and I just reached out to. But yeah, both those internships were really formative, because at the first internship, that was like straight accounting, and I was like, I can't do this. Like, this is horrible. And then at Goldman, I was like, actually got the chance to write code for the first time in like a production environment. And like, that's when I knew, like, this is what I want to do. Like, I loved like the translation of like an idea to designing it to then like implementing the code and then getting to see it like in action.
Awesome. Okay, so my guys are taking notes here. So LinkedIn, right? That sounds like that's your that's a social of choice there. Okay, awesome. What you've got the list same as I do. Where do you want to go from there? Languages, IDE. What do you code in?
Yeah. All right. I wrote down, so in, I guess, no particular order, these are all the languages that I've committed code to in Amazon. So Java, Scala, which is like Java's new younger brother. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Scala, but it's pretty cool. Perl, which is like from 1985. Ruby, which is also from like 1985. HTML and CSS, I've done a little bit of. TypeScript, JavaScript, just like generic bash scripts. Like if you guys are like in your terminal, like using bash commands, like we use those commands just the same as you. Amazon proprietary languages. So they're languages that have been developed internally by Amazon, and they own the language from, like compilation to execution. They own the whole thing. Wow. And then the IDEs that I use, I am strictly a IntelliJ user. I'm like a big advocate for IntelliJ. And then I also love Sublime Text. I don't know if you guys have ever used that.
I've used Sublime. Just as I've used it as a Python editor. Yeah, we haven't messed with IntelliJ, but I mean we've used Eclipse for Java and stuff like that.
Okay. I learned in Eclipse and NetBeans in college. Those were like very common just because like they're open source, they work really well, and obviously they're free.
Right. Okay. Cool. All right, just keep going down that list. What else you want to talk about? Every time I swipe over, like video just kind of messes up. So I'll let you kind of go next. Where you want to go next?
Okay. I thought two interesting questions were like favorite part of the job and worst part of the job. So like I knew when I was in high school and college, like whenever I was like talking to people where I was like trying to figure out if their job was what I wanted to do, like I wanted to know what they did all day. So I feel like that's really valuable. So I guess let me give you the breakdown of my day. So I spend like on any given day, I spend about 20% of my time designing things. So that's like, a product manager or my manager comes to me or somebody on my team and says like, we want to make this happen. So we want to come up with some new recommendation strategy or build some new data set, or like just imagine anything on Amazon originated with like somebody's idea, right? So they'll bring that to an engineer like me and they'll say like, can you come up with a design for this? And that's basically like scoping, like how much work do you think it's going to be, like what technologies they're going to use to get this done, like data flow diagrams. So like new data set, like what's that flow going to look like? So it's just doing designing. I'd say I spend like 30 to 40% of my time actually building and coding. So that's like the fun part of the job, I think, is like actually getting to write and commit code. And then with like the remainder of my time, it's really split between like meetings and reviews. So like we'll have weekly project calls, or I'll be reviewing other people's designs. I spend a good bit of my time reviewing my teammates' code because nothing is supposed to get pushed to production without going through a formal code verification process from somebody else. So, like if I want to push out a change today, I'll write it, I'll commit it, and I'll hit up one of my teammates and say, hey, could you take a look at this and approve it or provide comments or whatever. And then with the rest of my time is reading and learning. So like all those languages that I listed, the only ones that I used in college were Java, Scala, and Bash. So I had to learn how to, I listed like maybe 9 languages for you guys. I only knew like 2 or 3 of them. So I had to spend, obviously I have to learn how to use those languages before I can do anything productive with them. So we are expected to spend a lot of time just like learning and reading documentation. So then in terms of like, and least favorite part of the job, so my favorite part is like building and inventing new stuff. Like I love coding and then getting to see, like a few days later, I can pull up my phone and point at like a feature on the app and be like, hey, I did that. Like, I think that's super cool. Or I can like show my grandma and be like, hey, grandma, look at this.
Well, so do you have anything like that you can tell us? Like,
yeah, sure. Can I share my screen with you all?
absolutely.
Okay.
I'm gonna see if it's.
Oh, okay. Host disabled, participant screen sharing.
Well,
I think you've got to go into security and then.
Multiple. All right, let's see what I can do here. Advanced screen share. Who can share? No, I wanted. Oh, I'm gonna have to go into the. All right, you guys help me out here. I'm looking at security. Oh, you say security. It's try it now. It's showing that you can now. Is it not letting you do that? Fine.
No, I just have to grant Zoom permissions. 1 second.
Oh, okay.
All right, let's see if this works. There we go. All right, cool. All right, so can you all see? I've got Amazon.com pulled up.
Not yet. I'm still trying. Okay. Oh, hold on. It's just loading here. Okay. All right, we can see your screen now. Go for it.
All right. All right, cool. So this is the Amazon homepage. This is the part of Amazon that gets the most traffic. So all the content, so I'm logged into my own customer account right now. All the content that you see here should be personalized to you in some way, shape, or form. And what's really important is that on this page, nothing here is static. We are constantly like experimenting with the content that we're showing you. So you can imagine that each one of these where you see keep shopping for, buy again, deal of the day, explore more from across the store. I'm only seeing a subset of the content that's actually eligible for me. So like on homepage, there's actually like probably 500 other pieces of content that aren't being shown to me. The scenes, there's this really complex ML algorithm that's deciding, everything we know about Chris, and given, like his current shopping context, this is what we're going to show him. So nothing here is static. If I refresh the page a couple times, like hopefully I would see like slightly different things. So you can see, like, I just see, like, I bought Snapple a couple times last year and like now I'm being shown Snapple. But what I wanted to show you guys here is this keep shopping for, like widget is what we call it. My team owns this. So I was like, I'm thinking about going camping in a couple weeks. So I was like looking at camping, like water bottles and sleeping bags and tents, etc. So this keep shopping for thing is actually a recommender that my team owns and runs. And we're really proud of it because it's consistently shown to you on the front page. So if you go on Amazon.com and you see something that says keep shopping for, that's the customer intent team. That's my team. My old team, go ahead.
And that's basically based on you guys inferring kind of the type of products that they would also like based on what they were looking at it previously. And hold on, I got
exactly. So
I got a question here from one of my students. Andrew, you want?
Yeah. So
You can ask me. I'll repeat it here.
that's because. So is there a process for deciding how to format it to make it look the most visually appealing, and even how to decide, how do you decide what would be the most likely product they'll buy? Like what's, like, yeah, we can figure out like what they bought in the past, but is there a more accurate way of doing that?
So like, how do you decide? Like, I don't know if you heard the question. The question was like,
I heard it.
Okay, yeah. How do you decide that? Is that kind of like the ML algorithm that you were talking about?
Yeah, so the ML algorithm is actually experimenting with the sizes of these images that you see here. So if you all go on, you might see that these boxes are 150 pixels smaller, or we blow up the image here because like customers exhibit different shopping patterns based on what they're shopping for. So let me give you like a really concrete example. So if you're shopping for like a t-shirt on Amazon, obviously the visual aspect of that t-shirt is what's most important to you, or that's probably very important to you. So our ML algorithm will learn to show you larger apparel items because we know that the visual of t-shirt is really important. But when you're buying something like a phone charger or like something that has more like technical requirements, we'll actually shrink the image and show you larger product specifications. So that's part of like, like how do we decide what it looks like? And then we also have generic kind of like themes. So you can see like here, all these titles are standardized text, they're bold, they're all in Amazon Ember font. So we have like some kind of guiding principles, and then we try to let like the actual data decide what everything else is going to look like. And then you asked another question, which was interesting, which is like, how do we decide what to show you? And like, that's what we work on all day long. So like, take, for example, these tents that you see here. So I think that this is a tent that like I looked at, but these other three I didn't look at, and my team is recommending these to you. And so when you imagine the hundreds of thousands of tents that are sold on Amazon, like how do we pick the best one to show to you? Like that's what we work on. So like here, it might be using, the fact that I like the color blue to show another blue tent, or it might be showing this tent here because it's really highly rated, and like we recognize the fact that me as a customer, like I take ratings very seriously because I'm always looking at or leaving reviews. Or maybe I'm being shown this one because there's an ongoing deal, and like we have noticed that this deal is like really appealing to people. So how do we decide what to show you? Like I could talk all day about that because there's just like so many different ideas and ways to like style those recommendations. Does that answer your question at all?
Yeah, that
Yeah.
pretty much does, so thank you.
So that's interesting. What's interesting to me is you're saying it's not just the items, but it's also the way that it's presented is customizable, is what you're saying, which I would not have thought that.
Yeah, exactly.
And I can imagine that it would be pretty easy to code for like some specific products, but you're dealing with situations where even the attributes are different across all the different product lines, right? And different, and you're having to write code that is intelligent enough to adjust for the people who look at camping, it's going to give similar camp, it's just so many, it's just interesting, all the different variations, and yet it's still able to y'all are able to, I don't know, come up with a good suggestion. So I can see why it's an interesting, but a challenging program, or, problem.
Yeah, and you can imagine that there's just so many ideas surrounding like how do you come up with a good recommendation for somebody. So we call them features, and those features might be like deals, sizes, colors, brands that I like, customer ratings. There's just like endless different inputs that you can, kind of stick into a model to decide like this is what we should show you. Yeah, I was trying to show you all an example of like when the like the detail page for a product is like very clearly different. But I'm not seeing it right now. But yeah, keep your eyes open, because you'll see like the Amazon screen adapt to you basically at all times. And then like the other big customer facing thing that I've worked on was bestsellers. So like if you go on Amazon and you hit like this is what my past team really specialized in. So like these are the bestsellers in babies. So we look at all the prices ever for all these products in the baby category and show you those that have been bought the most. So like on this page, like I wrote this entire left-hand side, like we call this a navigation tree. So like if you click on books, it's going to navigate me to like one level deeper into the business, and it's going to show me all the other, and you can just kind of continue navigating down through all of our different lists. So like this was one of the first projects that I worked on, was like this left-hand navigation tree. So like that was something that I was like really excited about. So like that's I think the most exciting part of the job is seeing, here's my work. Like everybody in the world can see it.
Awesome. Very cool. Yeah. And so then what's the tedious, annoying part that you like, the stuff that you don't like?
Yeah. So with like any job in software, there's kind of always this like reality that technology is always changing, and you need to like migrate all your software to constantly be like up to date. So we have what's called an on-call rotation. So there's like 8 engineers on my team, and we have a weekly rotation. So each week somebody's on call. And basically that means that you're in charge of operational responsibilities for the team for that week. So this means you're handling like low priority software migrations, or if some bug is found, you've got to like go in and fix that bug. Like you're really like the same way you do maintenance on a car, like you've got to upgrade your tires, you got to upgrade, X, Y, and Z. So I don't find that as interesting as actually building new stuff. And I think that's like a pretty natural tendency. Like building new stuff is just more exciting. But the reality is that that's like an unavoidable part of any technology job. And then being on call also means that if there's an escalation, meaning like if something breaks, somebody's got to be there to fix it. So basically every team has like what we call 5 nines availability, meaning that we want our services to be available 99.999% of the time. So that equates to being down for 5 minutes a year. So if at any point one of my team's, services breaks or our page goes down or whatever, the person that's on call gets paged. So you've got to be available like 24/7 to be able to get on your laptop, like dive in and fix that issue. So that's certainly my least favorite part of the job, is like the operational load and being on call. So that's like the tedious, boring part. Or like an example that I wanted to see if you all had heard about was like the Log4j migration. Did you all hear about that big vulnerability that happened a couple weeks ago?
I did. Some of my other students are as well. Our tech director just stepped in here, and he's nodding his head. He's like, "Oh yeah."
Yeah. So that was like an example of everybody getting paged. They were like, "We need everybody to get online because we." My team had like 500 or 1,000 different vulnerabilities on Log4j. So we all needed to like get on and like migrate that software. So that's like the kind of operational stuff that I'm talking about.
Gotcha. Cool. All right. We got it. We got to know pay of other people in your field. Like, I mean, because we look online and there's numbers out there. but can you, we don't need to know yours particular here, Chris, but just, can you give us
Yeah.
like a ballpark figure? I mean, like what decade are we looking at for people that are going to get a tech job, people from Lehigh, people that you know what I'm saying? Can you,
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
hold on one second.
All right.
Hold on. We got an announcement here. It's going to be hard for us to hear us.
There will be no upward bound this afternoon, so any students that need to make a phone call.
We're about to have a snowpocalypse or whatever here in a minute.
Oh, okay.
Snowmageddon.
Make sure everybody knows that.
We get 2 inches of snow or ice here in Texas, and everybody, cancels school
Whole
for
state
2
shuts
days.
down.
Yeah. All right. Okay.
right,
You
good
guys
to go.
score the bell or whatever. Go ahead, Chris. Tell us what we want to know here.
Okay, so first I will give you the canned Amazonian answer that I'm trained to give, and then I'll give you the inside scoop.
Even better.
We're family.
Okay.
So on average, people in STEM careers make 40% more than their non-STEM counterparts. So I pulled this last night, and I encourage you all to do the same. If you go on to basically any university's career college website, they'll break down the salaries by major. So with a quick Google search, you can go on to Lehigh
Coach Coffin,
and see.
there is basketball practice till 4 o'clock today. Thank you.
Are you able to see this? You can see salary by major, right? So there's computer science, number 2 at Lehigh. But the reality is like with big tech jobs, if you get a job at any one of the big FANG companies or at any one of the unicorn companies, so FANG being like Facebook, Apple, Amazon, Netflix, Google, and unicorn companies being like Airbnb, Uber, Lyft, DoorDash, like any kind of like the household names that you'll easily be making like north of 6 figures. So I had 4 roommates when I graduated from college, and I was making close to double what they were making with like my tech job. So I pulled some like anonymous salary discussions. So in Amazon SDE 3, so like I'm a 1 and there's 2, 3 in principal. So this guy had 15 years of experience. He self-identifies as an Asian male. He was hired in October of 2020. His salary when he joined Amazon was $160,000 in cash, which sounds low. His signing bonus was $211,000. And then he got 50 shares of stock vested over 4 years. And Amazon stock right now is at like $3,000 or $3,500. So you can quickly do that math in your head. Like this person is making like north of $400,000 a year.
Now, you're saying he was hired as a level 3?
And
is that what? Okay.
He was hired as a level 3.
Okay.
But if you get hired as a 1, you will make if you get hired as an SD1 at Amazon, you'll make more than all your friends unless they work at Facebook, Netflix, or Google.
Right. Because that's because they're in competition with each other trying to get the best engineers.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, if you all are going through like that college selection process, like check out the average salaries that you see for like the major that you're interested in. Like I definitely encourage you to do that because that was not something that was on my mind when I was in high school.
Okay, cool. Hey, I'm gonna have to cut us off here. Can we do this in about a month or so and we can talk about like the code interview or something like that? Would that be good?
Yeah, definitely. I have coding questions ready for you all.
Yes, I want to hear them, but I gotta let these guys go either to work or to their next class. But Chris, I'm gonna have everybody say bye to you. You guys say bye. Thank you so much.
Chris.
All right. I hope you all found this interesting.
Oh,
Maybe
yeah.
I'll talk to you soon.
Awesome. Take care. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Yeah. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.